Hi everybody, I am being told I am live on air, so I am thrilled to be here. I hope you are too, and I hope everybody who signed up and wanted the link and got the link is signed up and live and not having too many problems. If you are watching from either YouTube or my website page, I would encourage you to hop on over to the actual Google Hangouts page, just because that way you get to interact with me, you can ask questions and things like that, and it's more fun for me because I can see who's online. So yeah, just please feel free to hop on over. If you're on my website, there's a link above the screen that says get more involved by clicking here or something like that. So click on that link, it'll take you to the Google Hangout. If you're on YouTube, it should be on the screen. Actually, on the screen it should say like come and see me or something like that, or be part of the conversation. So please do hop over and come and say hi. If you are on the actual Hangout, there is, I think it's, and I always have to remember how to do this, I think on your top right or top left, there's a little Rubik's Cube, and you can click on that, and if you go to Q&A, you can actually type me a question for later. And you can do that throughout the thing. It won't interrupt the broadcast, but it'll just mean that it's up there, and I can hopefully get to it and answer it shortly. So we'll just give it another minute or so for anybody who is joining to join, and then we'll get going. Just for those of you who don't know, maybe signed up because they saw an ad on Facebook or they got recommended by somebody. My name's Emma Brooke. I'm from the UK, and I'm a coach and a counsellor, and I have a real passion for helping people break free of this people pleasing, and a lot of what I do is based on quite spiritual concepts from A Course in Miracles, and also yoga and yogic philosophy. But basically my premise is, if we all concentrate a little bit more on ourselves, on our own feelings, acknowledging what's going on for us, and making sure that we're topping up our own energy first, and making sure we're coming from a place of love and happiness and joyfulness ourselves, we're better able to serve those around us. So, you know, it's not a case of being selfish and never doing anything for anybody else ever and being a horrible person. It's not about that. It's actually how we can be better people and happier people and more helpful people in the world by putting ourselves first. And that's hopefully what I'm going to cover in this class, or that is what I'm going to be covering in this class. So I'm going to jump straight in. I know on the page I posted like some bullet points. So just to recap, we're going to go through where your energy is, where it should be in order to be most helpful. I say should, and I hate that expression. But in my experience, what I found to be quite helpful, and you could try. Talking about a little bit about emotional numbness, and a little bit about my story, but how you can identify whether you do have that emotional numbness, and what to do about it to begin to feel again and get to know yourself again, which is obviously key if you're going to find the place within yourself that's going to be okay saying no to people without feeling guilty. Then we are going to go through what most people think about selfishness and kind of break down some of that taboo about people pleasing, because people pleasing is generally seen as not a great thing, but the opposite of people pleasing is selfishness, and people think that's really horrible as well. So it's like, well, where are you supposed to go? How are you supposed to live your life and be happy and make sure everybody else is happy? Where is that balance? So we're going to talk about that as well. And then we're going to just go through how to break through some of these mindsets. So there's going to be some mindset shifting that needs to be done, and I'm going to take you through the 3 steps that I use in order to do that. And it's not that difficult. Yes, it takes practice, but the actual steps are not that difficult. You can start doing them today. It's just going to take some practice. We're talking about retraining your brain. It's not going to be an overnight success, but you're going to have more and more moments of strength, more and more moments of knowing yourself, more and more moments of feeling comfortable and confident saying no to people. So that's what we're aiming for today. And eventually those moments add up and that's your life. So I just want to make sure, and I'm just going to flip over 1 second. And the reason I'm going to do that is I got a Facebook notification, and I did say, if you have any problems, to hit me up on the Facebook page. So somebody has. So I just want to make sure that she is okay, but I can't see it. That's very strange. Very strange indeed. Okay, Virginie, it was Virginie. I don't know why I can't see what you put. I'm really sorry. I'm hoping that you're able to make it and everything is all good. And if you have any problems, you will get the replay. Ah, it's here. I'm sorry, guys. I just don't want anybody to miss out. Okay, so let me just check that that's sent to her. Yes. Okay, perfect. So we're back. We're live. Right, let's get going because we've not got that long. And last time I did this class, I was really pushed for time, and I stupidly didn't make it any longer and have people knocking at my door at like 8:10. So let's get going. So I just want to start by saying that being selfish is not a bad thing. And I know it's a really taboo subject. And I know that people call other people selfish when they're trying to be mean and trying to make them feel small. And I know that you will have grown up, particularly if you are a people pleaser, there will be some recollection of being told that being selfish is a really bad thing, that you have to share, that you have to do everything for everybody else, that you have to look after people. And being selfish doesn't mean that you can't help other people. It doesn't mean you can't serve the world. It doesn't mean that you're no longer a good person or a nice person. And this class will really help you to ingrain that. And you know, that's why I have the Fearless Consciousness community, the group on Facebook, because I don't think enough people are talking about this and are giving people a safe space to go, do you know what, I don't have the energy to say yes to everybody all the time. Like I don't have it in me and I don't know what to do. And so, you know, the Facebook group is a great resource, and if you've signed up via email, you'll get the emails to come join us and just be able to explore that in a safe space without feeling bad about it. And a lot of the pressure that we put upon ourselves is self-generated. And I have to be honest here and say that to you. It is. Yes, society has generated that and started it off for us, but we perpetuate it. And at any point we can choose not to. It won't necessarily be easy, but we can. But all these hats we wear, you know, we're somebody's sister, we're somebody's mother, we're somebody's daughter, we're somebody's aunt, we're a colleague, we're a boss, we're a friend, we're a maid of honor. There's so many hats that we wear all the time. It's like a constant little merry-go-round of like swapping hats and being different people. And we all know that, you know, you can all sit here and go, oh yeah, no, I'm always myself. But you still have to wear different hats. You wouldn't talk to your friend in the same way that you talk to your boss. You have to kind of filter to a certain extent. I don't want to say censor, because I don't think anybody should really change who they are. But there's decorum and there's professionalism. And all that takes all the energy. Instead of being focused on us and lifting us up, it just directs and focuses that locus of control, that energy, externally. So when we're focusing externally, we don't have any idea what's going on internally. By default, we can't, because everything is facing externally. I see an extra viewer, so I hope Virginie's got on this call. So it's really difficult when we're facing outside to remember who we are inside. And that's where things like meditation come in, that I teach a lot and I go on about a lot. And the reason that I do that is because I find it incredibly valuable. Along with yoga, it's probably been the most key tool that I have in getting me from A to B and getting me along my journey and being more spiritually developed, being a more genuine and authentic person, and being okay with being myself, which is the fundamental principle I think that we all want. We all want to be okay being ourselves, because when we're genuinely okay being ourselves, we're genuinely okay saying how we feel. So if we're okay being ourselves and we really don't want to do something because we're exhausted, we're okay saying that and expressing that side of ourselves and showing that side of ourselves to the world. And I'm really sorry, guys, I've got like 20 tabs open here, so I've got notes and I'm like going back and forth, so excuse me if I look around the screen a little bit more. I'm trying to keep it as minimal as possible. But when we're looking outside, we're not looking internally. What happens is we become numb to our emotions. And I don't know if this has happened to you, but it happened to me in a really big way. But I was so focused on doing what everybody else expected me to do and everybody else wanted me to do, that I just didn't learn how to think for myself. You know, I started this pretty young, so I did it from birth pretty much. I just didn't know what it was like to think for myself. I didn't know how I felt, because like it didn't matter. Like I just did what everybody else wanted me to do because that's what mattered, because I was making everybody else happy, because that's what should happen. And it didn't even occur to me to think about how I felt. I didn't know what it was to feel. I didn't know what it was to know what was going on inside me without input from other people telling me how I should be feeling. And it's so much more common than we think. And if you're looking at this and you're thinking, oh my God, that's so me, you're not alone. I swear to God, I have over 70 members in my group now, and they're all there because they feel the same way, because they feel exhausted and they've kind of forgotten who they are because they're so busy trying to keep everybody else happy. You're not alone, and you have taken unbelievable strides in actually signing up for a class that says freedom from people pleasers, from people pleasing, because that's a really scary thing. I originally called the class something like selfishness or something, and my coach was like, you know, people won't sign up for that because people pleasers see the word selfish and it completely freaks them out, and they're like, oh no, that's not me. So, you know, you've taken a huge step just by identifying yourself as someone who people pleases and someone who doesn't want to people please anymore. So give yourself a pat on the back for that and congratulate yourself, because it's a big step. And don't underestimate that. That one step means you felt something, even if it's complete and utter exhaustion and being pissed off and frustrated and fed up. You felt something, and that's a great first step. You know, as humans, we are destined to survive. We've survived thousands and thousands of years by evolving. But I don't think at any point during our evolution have we people pleased as much as we do currently, and have to deal with as much stress as we do currently. You know, our ancestors had to worry about whether or not they were going to starve that winter, but they didn't have to worry about, you know, whether they needed to go around the corner and titivate their cave because, you know, the cave next door was a little bit more posh and their wife was getting upset that their cave wasn't as posh as their cave. Like, do you know what I mean? It's, people didn't have to worry about that. They had to worry about survival. And it was very selfish. Yes, people work as communities, but fundamentally, if you haven't eaten, you can't go out and hunt for your family. And that is really, really key. And I know I put that in a really male terminology, and I'm sorry about that. But fundamentally, this is how I got asked the question the other day in the group. How do we stop people pleasing, and how do we be more selfish and still do things for other people? And you need to ask yourself, instead of saying, how do I look after myself and look after other people? Say, how do you look after other people if you're not looking after yourself? Imagine yourself as a hunter-gatherer. If you haven't eaten for 3 days because you've been giving all your food away to all your friends and family, how are you then going to go out and continue to hunt for them and gather for them if you haven't eaten yourself? You need to make sure that you look after yourself, that you've eaten, that you've topped up your strength, so that you have extra energy to go and help other people. And talking about food, that brings on to a really good point. So I always share my own story, and it's very brief for those of you who are like, oh, I hate it when I get on classes and people just talk about themselves for the whole time. But it is relevant, and I do think it's important for me to be genuine as well, because there's no point me getting on this call with you and going, oh yeah, I did this, and now I'm like some great selfish person and I don't people please. And you know, I spent my life, as I mentioned before, doing things for other people, and all of a sudden in 2006, 2007, I stopped eating. And I say all of a sudden, it wasn't really all of a sudden, but it became a problem all of a sudden when I was working for my parents at the time. They have a business, and my brother works with them as well. And I'd been working for them for a couple of years straight out of university. And it became a problem when I couldn't really do my job anymore. I was a complete bitch at work. I was like horrible. I couldn't concentrate. I was making mistakes. The office where I sat was on the first floor, and I couldn't make it up the flight of stairs without pausing halfway up to take a break. I was permanently freezing cold, so I was always like wrapped up when everybody else was in shirt sleeves. And I worked in that office. There were 11 men, there were no women. So it's not like people were nice and polite. They were like, why the fuck have you got a fleece on? It's like 100 degrees, take your fleece off. And I was like, I'm really cold. And because it was a family business and I worked with the other directors actually took my dad to one side one day and said, we think Emma's got a problem and you need to do something about it. And that was horrific and humiliating and awful. I got to the stage where I couldn't do my job because I wasn't eating. But it took that to happen, and I'm so grateful to those directors now for doing what they did, because otherwise I don't know how long it would have gone. When I first sat down with the counsellor that my parents arranged for me, which was amazing. I'm so fortunate and so lucky, particularly in the UK. We have a brilliant NHS system, but it's only now getting to grips with the fact that talking therapies are really beneficial, and there's a huge waiting list. So I was able to go private, and in my first therapy session I was basically told, you have to convince me in this session that you want to get better, otherwise we'll just hospitalize you. And it was that serious. So I put in the work. I was like, I really don't want to go to hospital and I don't want to have a feeding tube. And I was a mess. I was a complete mess. I'd got depressed. I was having panic attacks every day, all the time, about everything but mainly food. And long story short, I was in therapy, and therapy is what really helped me to recognize what was going on with me. And number one was that I really wasn't happy at all. And initially I had absolutely no idea why, because on paper my life was pretty perfect. I owned my own house and I had a good job, and it was a very secure job because it was working for my family. I wasn't going to get laid off, and I had a car, and I had friends, and I just couldn't understand why I got myself into this state. And what came up in the end was that it was due to a lack of control, because I was living for other people, and I was living my parents' dream for me, not my dream. And I'd never really given any thought to what I wanted to do with my life. I'd grown up in the background of this family business. They started the business when I was 2, so they were always working, and we didn't have any money when I was little, and my parents, my mum made my clothes for me, and then the business started making money, and it was just assumed that I would go into the family business because my parents were building this business for their children, and my brother was already in it. My other brother was in London pursuing a different career, so it was like, well, obviously Emma will come into the business and succeed her mum as finance director. I've got dyslexia, okay? I have numerical dyslexia. How the hell they thought that it was a good idea that I should come into the business and be finance director? I have no clue. I had no interest in it. It wasn't any good at it. And so I ended up in doing like sales and account management and client service management. But it wasn't my forte, and it wasn't something that I enjoyed, and it was a struggle. It was a daily struggle. But because I didn't realize that it wasn't what I wanted to do, because I'd never asked myself what I did want to do, I ended up doing it. And so I ended up controlling my food intake because it was the only thing in my life I felt I could control. I lived where my parents wanted me to live because it was close to work. I didn't want a huge commute. So it was therefore close to them. I earned what they decided was a fit wage for me to earn. I worked where they wanted me to work. I felt very out of control of my own life. And so that was the beginning of my journey into really finding out what I wanted to do. I'd always loved psychology, but because I got told I had to do a business degree, I ended up doing HR, which was a compromise because it's psychology and organizations. So I always knew that psychology was in the background, but I'd never really given it any thought as to what I could do with that. But that's when I left the business. I moved away. I moved to London, and I started retraining in counseling. And at the same time, I was working in another job, in a corporate job as an operations manager, because I'm really processy as well, randomly. But that's how I ended up doing it. So I know where you're coming from. If you have this feeling that you're constantly living for other people, or you're constantly feeling obliged and obligated to do things for other people, to be there for other people, to follow a certain path in your life, to make somebody proud of you, I know where you're coming from. And it is not easy to acknowledge that for yourself. So if at this point in the class you're kind of going, yeah, oh my God, that's me, I congratulate you for that. And I really feel for you, because it's a huge moment. So just take that moment and just be like, okay, well, now in this moment I can move forward. And you can. Like, it doesn't matter what has come before. This moment is all that matters. Live moment to moment. If you get on the freedom from people pleasing wagon and tomorrow you fuck it all up again, then new moment. Like I said right at the very beginning, it's about adding up the little moments that you get clarity, that you manage to say no, that you feel okay. And the more you retrain your brain to focus on those moments, the more those moments will grow, and the more the others will fade into the background. So stick with it. It is a process. So let's get let's get really started. I'm going to scroll down my notes here. So I wish this class had like a little like put your hand up thing, because that'd be great, but it doesn't. So I'm guessing you're all here because you class yourself as a people pleaser. And I'm going to ask you just to think about what comes up for you when you think of being selfish. Just take a moment just to think of the first thing that comes up for you. Shame, guilt, being a bad person. Why me? Why do I deserve to be selfish? I want to do a bit of work on kind of shifting perceptions today, because I think, as I mentioned before, society has a really screwed up view of selfishness. We're taught, like, how many times have you, and I've done it myself, and like even today I catch myself doing it. You see a child and they're playing with toys, and another child wants to come along and takes one of the toys and wants to play with it, and the first child's like, no, it's mine, it's mine, it's mine, you can't have it. And then the mum comes scurrying along and goes, no, 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 you have to share, you know, it's not nice to be selfish. How many times have you heard that? So many times. Because you do want your child to share. Like, you want the child to be friendly and make friends and not be horrible and keep all the toys for themselves. But those little things that we hear, and particularly with the huge philanthropic movement that is going on today, where there's a constant barrage in the media of you know, celebrities giving to charity and doing this work and doing that work and building schools and everything else. It's such amazing, amazing stuff that we are doing, and we are trying really hard to come together as a global community to help those in need. And I think that is the most amazing thing. But it can kind of make you feel really guilty for doing anything for you. And that's where we get really skewed. So what I'm going to try and do today is just shift the perception a little bit. That's all. It's just little mindset shifts day by day by day, just retraining your brain, reprogramming your brain with new beliefs. And there's a lot of forgiveness work here as well. So yeah, you'll hit a lot of stumbling blocks and you'll feel guilt. And that guilt, that's when you need to do the forgiveness. I've got loads of forgiveness meditations. I say loads, I've definitely got 3 or 4 up on my YouTube channel. If you go to my YouTube channel, I think it's Emma G. Brooke, EMMAGBROOKE, or there's a link to it from my Facebook page if that's easier. I've got a playlist there called Meditations. Try some of the forgiveness meditations for some of this guilt that's coming up for you. You'll find it really, really beneficial. There's a lot of forgiveness work, I think, in any spiritual and personal development, and certainly in this release of the guilt from people pleasing. So check that out. But in the meantime, I just want to throw some suggestions out there and see where they land with you. So what if being selfish meant the ability to know your own mind better, so you knew where your strengths lay and how to apply them? What if it meant knowing why you were put on this earth, so you could reach your potential and serve to your best ability? What if it meant being able to be responsible for your own happiness, instead of giving someone else the responsibility for making you happy? So the way I think about these 3 concepts is, the first one was know your own mind better and know where your strengths are. So like I ended up in a job I hated and that I wasn't amazingly good at because I didn't really like it. Like I wasn't there. My parents import fruit. I wasn't that fussed on fruit. Like, it's okay, I eat it and that's good. But in terms of client management and account management, not that fussed. Like, I wanted to talk to people and figure out what made them tick, not chase up lorries and bargain on prices, and consequently I wasn't particularly good at it, which meant they didn't get a great service from me. You know, my parents, my directors, didn't get a great service from me for the money that they were paying me. And who does that serve? I'm unhappy, they don't get a great service. Nobody. So being selfish allows you to position yourself in the best place to help people. And that might be saying to somebody, actually, I'm not the best person to help you with this, but I can help you find somebody who is, or I know somebody who is, or just saying, like, I'm not the best person, that's not my area of expertise, and you might just have to Google the answer or ask somebody else, because I really don't know, and all I'd be doing is Googling for you as well, which, you know, you can probably do without me. My parents have a really bad habit of anything techie, they'll try and get me to fix, because I'm quite techie. But there are some things where I'm like, I don't know the answer, so, you know, you're best just to speaking to your IT guys who, you know, you pay to do this stuff. But that's it in a nutshell. Don't do somebody else a disservice, and think of it this way: don't do somebody else a disservice by trying to do something that isn't your passion, that isn't your area of expertise, just because they asked you. Honor them and respect them enough to say, I'm not going to be able to serve you as well in this. And you don't have to use serve, because that sounds ridiculous in a normal sentence, but, you know, that's not really my bag. I'm not that great at that. I don't think I'm the best person for you if you want a good service, if you really want some help doing this or whatever it is. And if you know somebody, great, recommend them. Or if you know where they should go or what website they should go on to find out, fantastic. But if you don't, just go, I'm really sorry, like, I'd probably just Google it. Google everything. Everybody gets everything on Google. And then this is the next one is a really huge one for me, and I am conscious that I may annoy a few people, or I may hit upon quite a lot of resistance with you guys when I talk about this. But this thing about, so that you could take responsibility for your own happiness instead of giving somebody else responsibility for making you happy, it goes down the route of relationships a lot. And in A Course in Miracles, which is a metaphysical spiritual text, if you haven't heard of it, it talks about spiritual assignments and holy relationships, and it's not religious, even though it's written in quite a religious way. But I'm not religious, so I don't take it that way. But it talks about how we are each our own person, yet very often we fall into an egotistical relationship where we're basically telling the person that we love, subconsciously or sometimes consciously, you need to make me happy. I can't make myself happy. You have to make me happy. So I'm going to give you responsibility for my happiness. There you go. Thanks very much. Like, isn't that making them solely responsible for making you happy? They're not in your head. How do they know what your deepest, darkest desires are? How do they know how to make you feel complete and fulfilled? They're not in your head. They're not with you 24/7. So how are you giving them responsibility for your happiness? It's like such a mean thing to do. And I'm sorry if I'm upsetting you. And if you're doing this, it's totally cool, because you weren't aware of it, and now you're aware of it, you can start to take control back. Okay, so if you're thinking, oh my God, like, and now you're starting to feel even guilty about that, stop. You weren't aware. It's not your fault. Okay, we're going to move on. But equally, it's the other way around as well. So if you're in a relationship where you've given somebody else responsibility for your happiness, it's highly likely that they've then given you responsibility for their happiness, or you've taken that on voluntarily, and you've kind of done this weird, like, warped flip thing where you're looking after their happiness and they're looking after your happiness. It's like, wouldn't it just be easier if you looked after your own happiness? Wouldn't that be way easier? Because you know yourself, or you'll get to know yourself, and you can make yourself happy, not just in that relationship, but in every aspect of your life. So you can feel complete and fulfilled. They can do the same thing. And then you can come together and hang out and just be like totally cool, happy, fulfilled people who make each other happy then. Because you're with somebody who's happy. I know you know this feeling when you're around somebody who's not happy, like who's depressed, or who's going through a hard time. It's emotionally draining. And I've been that person who's been emotionally draining of the people around me, and it sucks. And thankfully I have friends who are very supportive, but you don't want that forever. So think about who you give responsibility to for your happiness, and just think about taking that back. Do a meditation, visualize it. I take back responsibility for my happiness. Just say it. Next time you find yourself, quite often you go, you make me so happy, or I need you to make me happy, or don't you know how to make me happy? Just catch yourself doing it and going, do you know what? I'm going to make myself happy. I'm going to make myself happy. So the things that I want to, I'm just going back up to the top of my notes. Yeah, so the other thing I wanted to say about responsibility and happiness is that when we give somebody else responsibility for our happiness, and it doesn't have to be a partner here, it could be, in theory, I gave responsibility for my happiness to my parents. Unconsciously, I didn't make a decision. They just assume that responsibility and I just let them have it. So it doesn't have to be a partner. But when you do that, you put them on a pedestal. You're like, you have that power to make me happy. And all they can do when they're on a pedestal is fall off it. So don't set them up for disappointment. Don't set them up to disappoint you. Just take that back. Just take that responsibility back. And so all the things that I've covered today, I want to just sum up in some really good tips to start doing this. So hopefully the last 40 minutes has given you a better understanding of where you are in this process, of how you people please. Have you volunteered? Have you given your responsibility away? Have you given your control away? Or has somebody assumed responsibility for what they think you need to be doing and you've just let them? Have a think about that. Do you people please because you're told to, or because it just happens and you kind of forgot to take control of the situation because you were unaware of it, because you became numb to your feelings, because you're wearing too many hats, because you're exhausted? And create a hat for yourself, okay? And start putting that hat on. So I have a 3-step rule for kind of combating and becoming more aware of the people pleasing and how to get rid of it. So I'm going to go through three things now. There's a 3-step rule and then there's 2 other things. So the 3-step rule, number 1, take notes, people. Number 1, don't really. It's on repeat, it's fine. The number 1 thing you need to do with any personal development, but especially with people pleasing, is becoming aware of when you're doing it. Okay? When you're saying yes, when you're really screaming inside no, just check in with yourself. Just kind of go, oh, look, I'm doing that thing again where I'm people pleasing. Don't judge it. Just become aware of it. Become aware of when you're doing it. Become aware of when you feel so exhausted, but you're like, oh, I should do that. Shoulds are dead giveaways. If you catch yourself thinking, I should, then really just notice that and go, okay, why am I saying should? Do I want to? Or do I feel like I have to? And if I feel like I have to, why do I feel like I have to? Who is making me feel like I have to? And the next thing I want you to do is challenge that belief. So I just want you to ask yourself, why does it have to be about me? If you're thinking, I really should do this because this person needs my help, why does it have to be about you? Why don't they have other friends? Why do you have to be the only person? Why does it have to be about you? Why do you have to say yes on this particular occasion? And for each answer, because you will have an answer, there will be an answer. So for each answer you get, just challenge yourself again. Why? And if there's any beliefs that you're particularly stuck on, head on over to the Fearless Consciousness group and post them for me and say, I'm having a real problem with this because I feel like I have to do this because of X, Y, Z, even though I really don't want to. And I will help you. I will personally get on Facebook and I will talk you through it. And the third step of the 3-step rule is forgiveness. So like I said, it's a continual process. So you become aware of the problem in a moment-to-moment basis. You challenge it, you figure out what's going on, and then you forgive yourself. And this I took from Gabrielle Bernstein, but I love it. It's from A Course in Miracles as well. Just say to yourself, I forgive myself and I choose to see this differently. I'm willing to see this differently. And what you're doing there is just setting up the universe and the energetic vibration for a shift in perception, for a shift from that should that's going on in your mind, like I have to do this, I should do this, otherwise I'm going to be a bad person, I'm going to feel really guilty. You're asking and you're setting yourself up for a shift in perception so that you can look at it in a different way where you don't feel that guilt. And that forgiveness is really important. Forgiveness for people pleasing, forgiveness for saying no, forgiveness for whatever's going on in you that is making you uncomfortable. So you don't have to, it doesn't have to be done with some massive feeling. It doesn't have to be done in a specific way. It's just like, recognize what's going on, challenge your beliefs a little bit, and then go, I forgive myself. I choose to see this differently. I forgive myself. I choose to see this differently. Every time that thought comes up, that should thought, I forgive myself. I choose to see this differently. It is a continual process, and I really have to emphasize that. It's a continual process, so please stick with it. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not like you're going to say, I forgive myself, I choose to see this differently once, and your whole world changes. You have to keep doing it. That's why I do these classes every month, so you can hear it again. Keep doing it. It's really, really important. I still do it now, okay? I still do it now. A lot less than I did, but I still do it now because it's important, and you slip back into those old ways. So the second tool I want to give you, you've got the 3-step rule. The second tool I want to give you is I want you to start asking and checking in on your feelings continually. It's the only way to combat that numbness, the only way to become aware of what's going on with us, and the only way to figure out why we feel the way we do, whether it be exhausted, whether we feel fed up, whether we're depressed, whether we have an eating disorder. The only way to figure out what's going on is to check in on your feelings. So spend some time, like throughout the day, just go, how am I feeling? And if you're struggling to put a name to it, then what I find really helpful is to think about where it is in your body. So do you have butterflies in your stomach? Are your shoulders really tight? Are you sweating? Are you feeling really cold? Like, where do you feel it in your body? And as you start to develop that, I actually have another great meditation called Meditation for Feeling Your Feelings. That's a really helpful one to do as well. So check that out. That's on my YouTube channel. And finally, if you say no, know why you're saying no. Okay? So don't say no to anybody until you're very clear in your mind why you're saying it. So it's all very good me going through this freedom from people pleasing class and me go, yeah, say no to people now. Just say no. Because all that's going to happen is you're going to say it really unassuredly, and you're going to be like, I don't know if I can do that. I'm not sure if I can do that for you. And they're going to go, why not? And you're going to go, oh, yeah, no, it's okay. It's fine. I'll do it. Okay. That's what's going to happen. So you cannot decisively say to somebody, I don't think I'm going to be able to do this for you, but I think the best thing for you to do is go talk to XYZ, or I can't do it for you this week, but I can do it for you next week. Whatever it might be, you need to know why before you say no, because that way you're coming from a place of authenticity. You're coming from a place where you know what's going on for you. And that makes you strong. It comes from a place of knowing. So when you know you really can't do this because you're exhausted, say, I'm sorry, but I have way too much on right now and I actually can't do that for you. And when they go, why not? You go, because I've got too much on and I don't want to wear myself thin because I don't want to get sick. Because if I get sick, I can't help anybody. But perhaps in maybe 2 weeks' time, if you're still looking for somebody then, I can help you then. Dead simple. And then what do they say? They're like, oh, okay. What do they come back with? Like, no, I want you to do it. I want you to get sick. Okay, so if you say no, know why first. And that will also really help with the guilt, because you'll have already justified it to yourself before you have to justify it to somebody else. And always do it with a loving intention. You don't have to be a bitch about it. Do it with a loving intention. You're doing it to best serve yourself and to best serve other people, as we talked about right in the beginning. So I've got like 13 minutes left. As always, it's running a bit thin. I want to answer a few questions first. So if you are on the live call, and I know there are a few of you on here, so if you have a question on this, or you're struggling with something, or you want some advice on something, I would love to take some questions from you. If you go to the Rubik's Cube, and I'm actually going to find out which side this is because I wrote it down last time. So if you go to the Rubik's Cube, which is on the top right of your screen, there we go. It looks like a Rubik's Cube. If you click on it, you will get the option, there's a little Q&A button. If you click on the Q&A button, you can ask me questions live. Don't you just love technology and Google? So you can ask me questions. So please just shoot a question over. I'm just going to check the Facebook group as well to see if anybody has posted there. I do have a couple from previous times in case everybody's feeling shy. No, I think we're good on the Facebook group. So let me just hop on over to the other questions, just double check that nobody's posted here. Okay, so the questions that I had previously, which I'll just answer really quickly, and then we'll do a 5-minute meditation at the end because I love the meditations. So my husband seems to think my job is to look after him. He never does anything around the house, even though we both work. If I don't do it, it just won't get done. How do I look after myself in this situation? Okay, so you've obviously tried to not do it, and fortunately I've had quite domestic boyfriends in the past. But when I was in uni, I lived in shared accommodation, and I realized that if I left it, like, nobody else seemed to care. They were quite happy living in disgusting filth, and I always was the one who caved first. So I get that sometimes it's difficult, and it's like, okay, well, what do I do? Because I can't force somebody to help me out, but how do I look after myself? And what I would say to that is just stay really true to yourself. I've moved me in the screen. I'm conscious that I'm just looking sideways at you now. So just really stay true to who you are. Acknowledge what's going on for you and acknowledge how you're feeling. And, you know, if you're feeling frustrated, if you're feeling worn out, then you owe it to yourself and to your partner to have that conversation. I know that sometimes it falls on deaf ears, and everybody is in their, you know, they're on their own journey and they're in their own place. But stay true to yourself. And I would say also, of course, in Miracles talks about every relationship being like a spiritual assignment. So the frustrations that you're feeling, they're obviously coming up for a reason for you to learn from in some way, whether that's to develop your sense of yourself and your own strength so that you can say no, or whether it's to develop a stronger bond between you and your partner where you learn to communicate on a different level and you learn to understand each other better. Only you can figure that out. But I would say definitely you have to look after yourself. So if you're getting worn ragged and you're frustrated, it will be affecting your relationship. So you have to address that, because, you know, he doesn't want a really frustrated, angry person to come home to every night either, you know. And just try and have an honest conversation. I would say I've actually got a blog post coming out in a week or two about how to create healthy boundaries with loved ones, and it's got some scripts in there as well. So that's one to look out for. You're now on my mailing list, so unless you unsubscribe, you will get that in your inbox in the next week or so. But I would say come from a loving perspective. That's really hard when you're really frustrated, but just stay centered. Just take a moment and go, do you know what? I'm with this person because I love them. On some level, I love them, and I need that to come across. Even if they start getting defensive, even if they start getting rude, I can express myself in a secure way, and I can express my truth, and I can express how I'm feeling without being defensive and without resorting to fear. And by fear, I mean in the Course in Miracles sense of, you know, anything but love. So defensiveness, anger, frustration, it's all coming from a place of fearfulness. So just take that moment. If you need to go away and go, do you know what, I need to come back to this conversation because I'm getting angry and I don't want to. Go back, take a few breaths, remember why you love them, and go back and have that conversation again, and just keep trying, and it will happen. I was told not to be selfish. How do I get rid of such a deep-seated belief? Yes, we were all told not to be selfish. We were all told not to be selfish as kids, and we continue to do it to children today. But bit by bit by bit, this is not a, you know, miracle solution. Tomorrow you'll wake up and you'll be fine. This is giving you the tools to day by day by day, moment by moment by moment, to just recalibrate, to move back, to go back, to recenter, and you'll be going forward and you'll go off, and you correct yourself, and you go forward and you go off again, and you correct yourself. It's retraining your brain. It's not going to happen overnight, but it will happen. Persevere with it, just like learning a language, just like learning anything else. One more question I'm going to do really, really quickly. I'm actually going to use Mel's question that she posted last time because I think it was a great question. She said, other than pampering yourself, how else can you be more selfish? So other than, like, you know, running yourself a nice bubble bath or whatever, how can you be more selfish? How can you look after yourself? And I would say the biggest thing and the most important thing when learning how to free yourself from the constraints of people pleasing is to learn how to be authentically you, to just keep coming back to who you are, to keep coming back to taking the time to check in with yourself, to see how you feel, and really acknowledging that, acknowledging how you feel, and allowing yourself to show with other people. It's really, really valuable. It's completely underestimated. I completely underestimated it when I started my journey. And the spiritual growth that has come from me being really authentic, from me, writing on my about page that I had an eating disorder and I was completely messed up. It's so liberating, and it really does make me feel good, as weird as that sounds. Just being myself and being able to not have to hide behind a perception of who I should be is truly liberating. And I think that is the greatest expression of self-care. So if you're looking for something else to do other than the bubble bath, I would say show somebody the real you. Just be you more and more and more. And make yourself vulnerable, because when you make yourself vulnerable, you have nothing to hide from, and it feels incredible. So on that note, we've got 4 minutes left for a meditation, which is okay, I think. I'm just going to get my screen right here. So let me just get it so I can see you guys, and just take a big deep breath and exhale. And just let everything go. Like if your shoulders have got tense, mine have got a little bit tense whilst we've been on the call, just release them. Uncross your legs if your legs are crossed, unless you're like sat in lotus on the floor, which is pretty impressive. And I'd be quite happy if you were doing that. But otherwise, just sit really comfortably, but uncross your legs. Make sure that your back's nice and straight. So if you need a little cushion behind your back or something, get that now. And just place your hands comfortably in your lap. And just take a couple more big deep breaths. So inhale, exhale, and let your eyes close. And as your eyes close, just close out the rest of the room and turn inwards, allowing my voice to filter in gently. Take another breath. And on the exhale, let go of any worries, tension, or stress. I'm clock watching, so you don't have to. Just enjoy. Bring your attention to your body now. How does it feel? Hot, cold, stiff? Where's your right big toe? What does it feel like? What do your clothes feel like against your skin? Notice all of these things without judgment or stress. As you become more aware of breathing and your body, notice how you can become more aware of your feelings too. You are a whole person. You are as equal and valuable as anybody else. You have unique gifts to share with the world. And the greatest gift you can share with the world is your complete and unreserved joy. Joy which comes from living in flow and co-creating with the universe. And so acknowledge your resistance to your joy in this moment. It's not important what it is or where it might be held, but gently say to yourself, I acknowledge this subconscious resistance to joy, and I am willing to release it. I forgive myself for anything holding me back from joy. I trust myself and the universe to guide me. I open up to the infinite joy available to us all. And I accept fully and completely all the joy that is available to me. So that I am so joyful, my joy overflows to others. And I am a shining light for others on their own journey. Visualize and see and feel that golden, joyful light washing over you now. See yourself being filled with the light, accepting and deserving of this joy, eventually overflowing and flowing out to the room and to the world. Feel your feet. Let the light flow through your feet to the ground. Smile and open your eyes. So I hope you enjoyed that little meditation. As I said, there are lots on my YouTube channel. Just before you guys disappear, I promise I won't keep you much longer. I know it's 8 o'clock. But I just wanted to share with you that as a special gift, because I love you guys for showing up on a Friday night. I wanted to give you all the opportunity to have half an hour's coaching with me for free. Because like I said, I love you and I want to give, and I have some time at the moment to do that with you. And I know that this may have brought up some questions for you, and as you start to implement these tools that I've given you, that you might hit some resistance that you want to work on. So I would love, love, love to spend half an hour with you for free and coach you and just try and help you get over those initial hurdles. So that's a special gift for you, which I didn't advertise because I only actually realized that I could do it today and freed up some time for it. So I'm gonna just actually put a link here in the showcase reel. So if you go back to your Rubik's Cube and click showcase, you'll be able to see the link, but there it is also going out in the emails. So if you have not signed up on the email list, not on here, not on the Facebook event, go to the Facebook event, click on the link that takes you to a link on my website with a sign up form. Fill out that sign up form. You will get the email tomorrow with a link to this class and also the link to use to get the free gift. Okay, I don't want you to miss out. I don't have unlimited spaces. It's first come, first serve. So until my kind of diary gets full for next week and the week after, I will leave it open, but it's not going to last forever because, you know, they're free. So please make sure you are on that email list. So go to the Facebook event page and use the link that's in there to go to my website. I think it's on the right hand side or in the pinned post. It says make sure you sign up here and pop in your email and you will get that email tomorrow morning. So do it before 10 o'clock. If not, message me on Facebook and I will make sure you get it. And yeah, I can't wait to coach with you guys. If you've got any questions or feedback, please do leave it for me on the Facebook page. I love, love, love hearing from you. And thank you so much for joining me tonight. Have a wonderful weekend or Friday, whatever time zone it is for you, and I will speak to you soon. Bye.